Oh, 1121 is coming, and with the alleged changes being released yesterday, it is the duty of the Jizz to bring you the 10 best top laners of this upcoming patch. And there were a bunch of changes in this one, so make sure you stick around to know exactly who it is you need to start playing. Now, we're also going to release the 10 best mid laners for the 1121 later today, and there are some very interesting picks in that one as well, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it, and let's get into it. Now, once again, with this countdown, guys, I'm just going to give you 10 top laners who are going to be strong AF, and you could tell me in the comments which one is going to be the most broken. Sound good? Now, the first one I want to draw your attention to is Teemo, who got some serious bust for 1121. So your Q's cooldown has gone down 1 second. The actual blind in your Q, this has gone up half a second at rank 1, increasing to 1 second at rank 5. And because this is an ability you can max first in the top lane, this is going to be significant. And the actual speed at which your dart travels is also increasing. So if you are against champions whose main damage comes from auto attacks, maxing your Q first, this is going to be nuts, but it's also good to max this against champions who can't really get onto you. So your playstyle revolves around your blinding darts poke. And I mentioned in yesterday's tier list video, imagine if you have Liandry's Anguish with this setup. I know that Nasus 2 from Riftmaker is probably going to still be the go-to, but if you were to build Liandry's Anguish, and once you get a couple more items, your Q in the late game will be on like a 3-4 second cooldown. And for team fights where Teemo can sometimes be a little useless, this is going to make you so valuable. There is no doubt that Teemo is going to be one of the strongest top laners if these current changes go through. Now, another top laner who is getting changed in 1121 but will still be one of the best, this is Quinn, and you're actually getting nerfed. So your W, which remember is the ability you're maxing first, the bonus attack speed you get, this is down by 20% at rank 5. So this probably won't discourage Quinn players from maxing their W first, because it is very important. The attack speed, the movement speed, it gives you all the kite you need to dominate the top lane, but down 20%, that's quite a lot. But thankfully for Quinn, you still have all the tools you really need to crush every champion you play against in the top lane. And remember, at the moment in 1120, Quinn has the highest win rate in the entire game. So this will certainly bring it down a little bit, but she will still be more than playable, and you will still be able to carry game. And like Teemo, you want to be running press the attack, but one unfortunate thing in your runes is that Ravenous Hunter next patch is getting nerfed. So the Omni Vamp you get from getting a kill or an assist, this is down by 0.3%. So your actual sustain is not going to be what it was. But thankfully, with Immortal Shield Bow, you have enough sustain and survivability still, so Quinn will continue to be one of the best lane bullies in the top lane. Now, one champion who isn't necessarily a lane bully, but is certainly having a lot of success in the top lane, this is Nasus. And next patch, nothing is really going to change this. There are no direct nerfs or busts to your items or Nasus himself, so if you're going to play the dog, it's a very wise decision. He still has one of the highest win rates across the board in any elo, and he's also incredibly good into the strong champions at the moment. So if you think of Riven, Fiora, Jax, yes, you can cop it in the first few levels, but if you can get to level 9, so 5 points in your Q safely enough, it's like a switch just flips and you automatically win the top lane at this point. Your wither is a cut to most champions you're going to go against, but just remember, as you copy down your runes, first of all to run fleet footwork, but also to run ability haste in your minor runes. This is really important because it capitalized on the Q buff way back in preseason, and having cooldown overall on Nasus is just such an important stat. It's in pretty much every item you build apart from Steris Gauge, and the boots you go as well are Lucidity boots. But do be careful about blind picking Susan, because he can get dumpstered by early strong champions like Darius, for example. But if you know the top lane matchup is going to be free scaling, Nasus, certainly one of the strongest picks. Now, another champion who's actually getting changed next patch, guys, and not for the better, this is Graves, who's getting nerfed. But for Graves, even though your E's armor is going down at each rank, here's the thing. When you pick Graves top lane, it's a bit like picking Quinn. You have range, you have peel for yourself in your W and your E, so it's hard to jump onto you and stay onto you. So pretty much when you pick him, you're still going to get a free top lane, and because your scaling is so insane, even if you don't do that well, you're probably always still going to have a positive impact. Now, your build is important. You want to be going Shield Bow, then Collector if the enemy champions are squishy, otherwise swap those with Lord Dominic's Regard, and then finishing this with Infinity Edge. This 3-item spike capitalizes on that 60% crit, and Shield Bow gives you the sustain, the survivability, exactly like Quinn, to survive those top lane fights. It's also nice for Graves because Conqueror is getting nerfed next patch as well, and seeing as you go fleet footwork, this means that most champions in the top lane who do go Conqueror, you're just going to be better against. So no doubt that E nerf will affect Graves, especially in those long extended fights, but not enough to take him out of the top 10 top laners. And speaking of one of these champions who will be using Conqueror next patch, this is Fiora. And somehow for another patch, Fiora has again escaped a nerf, but she is getting nerfed in 2 departments here. So yes, Conqueror, the actual stack duration, this is down to 4 seconds, so that's a 2-second drop, which means that when you auto attack the enemy champion, you then have 4 seconds to keep that Conqueror stacking. But it's not really that bad for Fiora just because you can stack Conqueror very quickly. But the other change, which is way more significant, is the nerf coming into Gore Drinker. So the active damage is now scaling off your base AD rather than your total AD, which is a big decrease in damage, and instead of getting base HP regeneration, you're getting Omnivamp, which is really good for the mid to late game, and this will also enhance your Ravenous Hydra purchase, but the active damage is down a ridiculous amount. This means the Stridebreaker and every other mythic you can go, perhaps Trinity Force or Divine Sunder, it becomes a bit more viable, but Goredrinker will still be the most consistent choice. So what do we think, guys? Is Fiora the most broken top laner with this nerf? And another champion kind of similar to Fiora in the fact that she's so broken and is again somehow escaping a nerf in this patch. This is Riven. So we talked about the Conqueror change. Now for Riven, this isn't really that important again, just because you can stack Conquerors so quickly. But just like Fiora, the Goredrinker nerf is a nerf, and this is going to affect you a little bit. But still, it's Riven. The damage, the HP, the haste, you still have pretty much everything you need to dumpster any top laner in the game. Please just remember, if you are going to play Riven, to make use of your amazing passive. If you don't auto attack in between your abilities, you are going to miss out on so much damage. And this is why, simply because lots of Rivens don't actually know how to utilize her passive correctly, doesn't have the best win rate overall. So get into practice tool and practice weaving in those auto attacks, and you will see why this champion is thought to be so broken by so many players. Now, one champion who can counter a lot of the champions I've just mentioned, this is Malphite, because of course of his amazing innate armor, and definitely next patch, the runes, the items you actually go on Malphite, these are not getting nerfed. So Malphite is going to be in the same position, and because these Conqueror champions are taking a little bit of a hit with the Conqueror nerf, Malphite naturally becomes a little bit stronger. But a bit like Nasus, guys, you have to be very careful picking him, especially with this amazing Teemo buff. So there are some lanes you just auto lose, but still, even if you do lose these lanes really hard, you're still going to be incredibly useful because you are Malphite. And the rune page you see, I've mentioned this in other videos, this is going to give you the sustain you need in the laning phase to actually become more of like a poke harassy champion revolving around your Q. It's actually incredibly annoying to play against. Just remember to hold onto your W and E for when the enemy champion jumps on your head. Now, I just mentioned Fiora and I mentioned Riven. Well, another champion who's very similar to these two fighters is Camille, who once again is going to be insane in 1121. So thankfully, when you get your Sheen and then Divine Sunder and then Ravenous Hydra and then Steroids Gauge, it's still going to be freeload. And as you copy down the rest of the rune page here, just a couple of things if you do play Camille. Remember, your Q is an auto attack reset. So if you're not auto attacking and then queuing straight away again, you're missing out on DPS and a bit of efficiency in the combo department. And also remember that your E guys can get interrupted by a lot of things. So make sure against champions like Darius and other champions who have stuns that you're using this with these other cooldowns the enemy champions have in mind. Now, one of the last two champions, guys, we have to think about for being the strongest top laner in 1121 is Darius. And even though Conqueror is getting nerfed, again, because you can stack it very quickly, it doesn't really mean that much. But for Darius, Goredrinker is getting nerfed. So if you were going Goredrinker Darius, probably not much point anymore because you have other options in Stridebreaker and also Trinity Force. Now, the Stridebreaker nerf buff we haven't actually really talked about. So what's happening is that your actives damage, just like Goredrinker, is scaling off your base AD. But here's the thing, your base AD is Darius is one of the highest in the game. And at level 18, this will actually still do a good amount of damage. And you're also getting 5 more AD right off the bat. So to be honest, with this, even though you might miss out on the Sheen damage with your W now, Stridebreaker will certainly become a lot more viable. And as I just mentioned, because your W from last patch is staying on a 5-second cooldown, this buff has actually seen Darius's win rate go up to like 52% in high reloads, and this major positive impact is going to stay again for another patch. And just remember on Darius, I'm just saying this in case some people are, to max your E second. Leave your W alone and max this last. Now the final top laner, guys, we have to consider next patch. This is another champion who builds Goredrinker, but thankfully because Sett is one of those champions who stacks Conqueror quickly because of his passive, and is also a champion just like Darius who will benefit from the Stridebreaker change. Also the fact that you're one of the strongest early game champions and lane bullies in the entire game. But I just want to say as well, guys, even with the Goredrinker nerf for Sett, you can still go Goredrinker. It's still going to be good. You won't hit as hard, but it's still fine. And just like Darius, you can go Stridebreaker, and you might even consider Trinity Force as well. So you certainly have a few options, and it really depends on what you need in the game and the actual matchup you are in. And as you copy down the runes and the rest of the core items you have to build on Sett, please remember, guys, that starting with your E is by far the best tactic at level 1. So many Setts randomly start W, they might start Q, which is kind of okay, but remember your E is going to stun this enemy champion. So as they miss out on one auto attack, you get another one in. This is so important, so please don't make that cardinal mistake of getting your W at level 1, and you will give yourself the best chance of crushing lane. So those are the 10 best top laners for 1121, guys. Let me know in the comments who you think the one champion who is going to be the most broken. And as always, please remember to leave a like down below if you did enjoy the video, and remember to check out the GameLeap website on your way out for the best challenger courses, lane guides, role guides, whatever it is you think you need, we have it. I guarantee it. So check it out, links in the description and comment section. And until today's later upload where we talk about the 10 best mid laners, this has been the Jib.